they don't cross. Hold on. There's some in that white tray there, but please make sure you put it back at the end. How do we look at the equations and know? Like from the graph, we can look and make sure they don't meet. But how do we tell from the equation?
You know, like if they're the same number on a different axis?
Yes. If the slope is the same. So different y-intercepts, but same slope. So algebraically, we are looking for same slope. If the slope is the same, that means they have the same steepness, so they won't ever intersect. What are perpendicular lines? More specifically, they cross and form what kind of angle?
90.
Make sure you put it back at the end. So they intersect at a 90-degree angle. How do we tell that from their slopes? So if they're the same, they never intersect. If they're going to be a 90-degree angle, they have to be total opposites. So they have to be opposite reciprocals. And that means reciprocal, you flip them. Opposite, they have different signs, one positive and one negative. Come in. So for instance, parallel would be like y equals 2x plus 1, y equals 2x minus 1. Both of these have a slope of 2, so they never intersect. Perpendicular would be like y equals 2x plus 1, and if you want to flip it, this is like 2 over 1, so it'd be 1/2. That's the reciprocal. Opposite would make it a negative. So same, parallel. If they're flipped and sign changed, those are perpendicular. Let me know if you have a question, okay? All right. So those opposite reciprocals, let's just practice that. If I say 3/4, what would be the opposite reciprocal of that? Negative would be the opposite. Reciprocal would be? 4/3. Okay, if you have a positive 2, that's like 2 over 1. So the opposite reciprocal would be negative 1 over 2. If you have negative 7 over 8, the opposite reciprocal would be?
8 over 7.
If you have 1, that's just like 1 over 1. So opposite reciprocal is? Negative 1 over 1, which is still negative 1. Last one's kind of tricky. If you have 0, is there such a thing as a negative 0?
No.
No. Okay, if you flip it, this is like 0 over 1. Can we do 1 over 0? What does that become? What happens when you have 0 on the bottom? Undefined. So 0 and undefined. Or if you think about it, if you have a perfect horizontal line, that's a slope of 0. So perpendicular would be a vertical line where the slope is undefined. All right. So we are going to practice this 2 ways today. We are going to look at 2 lines where I give you the points on both, and we are going to decide if those are parallel, perpendicular, or neither, and then we'll also look at the equations and decide. So if I give you the points, what do we need to do with those? We can plot them and look at the graph. If I didn't want to draw a graph, what would I do? What do I have to compare on the 2? Slopes. Do we know how to find slope? Yeah, everybody has been doing this. So we know this is like our x1, y1, x2, y2. So I have to do that for each of them. So for my first one, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus negative 2. that gives me a positive 3/4. Now we do the second one. Okay, so this is my x1, y1, x2, y2. So slope y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1, so minus -1. So we get 3/4. What does that tell me? Parallel. Same slope, parallel. So if we have the points, you find the slope on each, and then decide. Let's do another one together. So number 3. Slopes. This is like my x1, y1, x2, y2. So for the first one, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus -1. So 6 minus 8 is -2 over 2 plus 1 is 3. Do the next one. x1, y1, x2, y2. So 3 minus 2 over 3 minus -1. 3 minus 2 is 1 over 3 plus 1 is 4. Parallel means they're the same. Are they the same? No. Perpendicular means they're opposite reciprocals. We flipped it and changed the sign. Did I do that?
No.
So that means these are neither. They're not parallel, they're not perpendicular. It's just two other lines that they intersect somehow, but not at a right angle. I want you guys to try the next couple. So do 5 and 7. Right point, but then you kind of stop too soon. We have x1, y1, x2, y2. So y2 minus -2 over x2 minus x1. You get 9 over 0. And most people stopped there. Can you do 9 divided by 0? What does that turn into?
Undefined.
Undefined. What kind of line is that? Undefined. What kind of line has a undefined slope?
It's just a straight line.
Straight vertical line? Alright, so for the second one, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we get 0 over 3, and most people stop there, but what is 0 divided by 3? 0. So we have a vertical line. What kind of line has a slope of 0? Horizontal. What kind of lines do you have when you have a vertical and a horizontal? Perpendicular. Number 7. x1, y1, x2, y2. So our first slope, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So -4 minus 1, or -4 plus -1 is -5. 3 minus 3 is 0. What happens if 0 is on the bottom? Undefined. Okay, second one, x1, y1, x2, y2. So our slope, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So 5 minus 1 is 4, negative 4 plus 4 is 0. 4 over 0 is undefined. Okay, we didn't get a number, but they're the same, they're both undefined, so this means we have two perpendicular lines this time. Their slopes turned out to be the same. Alright, so this is taking something we know how to do. We know how to find slope. And then you do it twice and you're checking at the end. If they're the same, it's parallel. If they're opposite reciprocals, that's perpendicular. And otherwise, it's neither. Do we need more problems like that? Okay. Then let's try a couple where I give you the equations. If you have the equations, you just have to make sure it's in y equals mx plus b form. I actually want to do number 10. I'm going to switch over and do some evens. Alright, if I look at this first one, it's already y equals mx plus b. What is my slope?
Negative 5 to 4.
4 over 5 for the first line. Just a number in front of x. For the second one, it's okay. They're not the same. Are they opposite reciprocals? Yeah, we flipped it and changed signs, so that means these are perpendicular. Number 12. I can't just look at those and tell the slope. So first we have to get y by itself. These are in standard form. We need them in slope-intercept. So we've done this. So 6y would equal negative x plus 30. Divide everything by 6. So we get negative 1/6x plus 5. So what's the slope of that? Okay, second line. I have y by itself, so what do I really need to do for my first step? Okay. It has to be y equals mx plus b form, so that's 6x minus 2. What's the slope of that line?
6 over 1 is 6x.
The number in front of x is 6, which is the same as 6 over 1. So I have a positive and a negative, 1 over 6. If you flip it, you get 6 over 1. So they are opposite reciprocals, which means perpendicular again. Alright, you guys try the next two, 14 and 16. So we have to get y equals mx plus b form. So here we'll start by subtracting the 3x. So negative y equals negative 3x plus 2. And negative y is the same as negative 1y. It's multiplied with negative 1. So we have to divide by negative 1. So we get y equals 3x minus 2. What's my slope? 3. Just a number in front of x. Okay, second one, subtract our 12x. So negative 4y equals negative 12x plus 4. Divide negative 4. So negative 12 divided by negative 4 is positive 3x minus 1. So slope, the number in front of x, is also a 3. If they're the same, that means alright, number 16. We can't even really get these in y equals mx plus b. But you need to remember, boy and bucks. If it's a y equals, that means we have a horizontal line and our slope is 0. If it's x equals, that is a vertical line and the slope is undefined. Okay, 0 and undefined. What does that mean?
Perpendicular.